Welcome to Good Game, the show for gamers by gamers. I'm Hex.
And I'm Banjo. This week, Diablo 3. It's been over a decade in the making, and tonight we find out if it's been worth the wait.
We also explore Dragon's Dogma, a fantasy epic with some of the best combat we've encountered in a game like this. But first, can you guess the game for this week?
Hex, the sooner you go do the news, the sooner we can get back to playing Diablo.
All right. The Australian division of the troubled UK games retailer Game has entered into administration. Most pre-orders for titles including Diablo 3 and Max Payne 3 have been cancelled and refunds will not be issued. However, Blizzard has announced that anyone who lost their pre-order with Game will be able to receive a credit on a digital purchase. At the time of reporting, no Australian shops have been closed and trading will continue. The highly anticipated shooter BioShock Infinite has been delayed. The title was originally due for release in October this year, but will now launch on the 26th of February 2013. They will not be demoing the game at the upcoming game conferences E3 and Gamescom. Sony has released their financial results for the year, reporting a total loss of over $5.5 billion. Sony's profits were down across all divisions, and even the usually profitable gaming division lost nearly $3 billion. In response to the results, Sony's share price fell almost 7% to a 31-year low. Blizzard Entertainment and Valve Software have reached a settlement over the disputed Dota trademark. Last year, Blizzard had objected to Valve's use of the name in their upcoming title, Dota 2, claiming the brand had started as a mod for Warcraft 3, a Blizzard title. Valve will now own the rights to the Dota name when used in a commercial setting, while Blizzard will be able to retain non-commercial use of the title. As a result, Blizzard Dota has been renamed Blizzard All-Stars.
Good game!
Ah, the fantasy RPG. Dragon's Dogma is Capcom's take on the fantasy epic, and as a fantasy fan, dare I say it has one of the coolest story intros in a game I've ever seen.
It's the dragon!
A terrible dragon attacks your small fishing village, terrorizing and slaughtering your people. You, naught but a peasant, take up arms and bravely take on the beast all by yourself. But he swats you like a fly, plucks your heart from your chest, and eats it.
Miraculously, you're brought back to life with magic by the dragon and instructed to seek him out and challenge him for your heart. You are hereafter known as the Arisen, and with some newfound strength, some magical abilities, and some devoted companions, you set off on your epic quest. Your first task after customizing your character in a wonderfully detailed and extensive customization menu, I might add, is being introduced to the concept of pawns.
Yes, it isn't.
Pawns are a kind of mystical race of devoted, soulless golem things that exist only to serve in a time of crisis. In this case, their duty is to you, the Arisen and future Dragon Slayer.
You can have up to 3 pawns at one time of various classes to make up your party. One of these will always be your pawn, which you will customize and shape to your liking, initially with a rather clever survey which will ultimately determine their class and inclination. And this is just one of the many little things I love about this game, Hex, such as how your pawns collect items on the ground for you and loot, and you can also sit down with your pawn and give them a good talking to if you want to readjust their combat tactics.
Aiding my fellow pawns will be my first priority.
Pawns are great.
I am honored to travel with you.
Other pawns can be swapped in and out whenever you encounter a rift stone. You can set favorites and even hire your own pawn out to other players who can give them gifts upon their return. We couldn't test out online functionality with our code, but it's a cool idea.
Yeah, and it's a nice system because each pawn has different strengths, weaknesses, abilities, and personalities. I just found that I didn't really care about them because they're sort of not real people. They're just these zombie-like drones who are like, I live to serve you, master. And if one dies, you can just go back into the rift and get a new one.
That's why I like them. They're my underlings.
From this day, the Legion's men called pawns live and die by your command.
I did feel a connection to them when I went to trade in another one though, because you feel like they've lost the popularity contest and you're sending them away and getting a new one in.
Is everything in order, Master? May I pass?
Sorry, buddy. Talk too much.
Although I did quite enjoy having my badass group of ladies with me. Better watch your back, beasts of the land of Grancis.
But let's talk about the classes. Initially, you can only choose from 3 vocations: Fighter, Mage, and Strider. But as you level up, you can upgrade to evolved versions of these vocations with a vast array of abilities using a combination of magic and melee. Or simply pick a new vocation altogether. I thought this was really interesting.
Yeah, now, when we reviewed Kingdoms of Lamalur Reckoning, I was fiercely against this idea of just changing your class willy-nilly, but now I have to say I'm kind of enjoying it. I mean, I stuck within my range, mind you. I started out as a Strider, and, you know, I always go the Rogue Hunter option, and I evolved eventually into a Ranger and then a Magic Archer. Oh my god, badge, so cool! I had daggers with a whole host of insane attacks, slicing and dicing, tossing targets into the air and firing explosives at them, aerial dashes. My bow would rain arrows down on trolls, but I could also play at mage with a staff, which let me do this, and this. And this is just the Magic Archer class. I mean, there are 9 vocations in this game.
Yeah, so much to choose from. I love the sword play, especially the Tusk Toss ability, which launches your enemies into the air, and my personal favorite, the Flesh Skewer. Combat is just so fluid and reactive. I love getting in there and hacking away while my pawns rain down arrows and all sorts of stuff going off. Oh, it's exciting.
I love the fact that I could begin a fight with a mage's staff and then switch to daggers halfway through. This gave me a wonderful mix of ranged attacks, but then getting up close and personal by utilizing the game's awesome grab mechanic to climb up onto the beast and attack its head as it thrashed around.
Yeah, the grab mechanic is just great, isn't it? It reminded me of Shadow of the Colossus a bit, and I'm surprised more games haven't done this. It just makes sense to be able to grab onto an enemy and attack them like this, rather than just attacking their feet or using a QuickTime event. It's one of those great, simple ideas that just makes combat so engaging.
And that sense of accomplishment you get when you take an enemy down is just so much more satisfying.
I did find in some of those larger beast battles, though, that camera got really messy. If out in the open, these fights look amazing, but often you're near trees and spend half your time with your vision obscured by pixelated branches.
I know. In fact, I found the nature of these fights to be quite messy in general. In this one fight with a Hydra, I was clinging on for dear life and the camera was swinging around so much I had no idea what was happening half the time. You and your pawns work together in battle, and you need to keep them alive as well as yourself, but their contribution to each fight is immeasurable. They'll utilize their various attacks and abilities to not only pound their fair share of damage into an enemy, but also assist by setting your weapons aflame.
Now, my fire is yours!
Sometimes they'll even hold an enemy for you while you strike the killing blow.
That map is just begging to be explored, both due to the lay of the land itself and its many nooks and crannies to find chests, herbs, and treasure, and the frequent urging of your pawns, who constantly chat to you and let you know if there's danger or if you're going in the wrong direction, or what there is to gain from traveling a certain path.
Yes, but ye gods, the best advice your pawns will give you is to fear the night. A lantern will help you in dark times, but nothing will save you if you're caught in the forest after dark. By night, horrible ambushes of bandits, death knights, the undead, and chimera will rain down upon you and your band of travelers in a whole heap of unpleasantness. Oh, and save often, because the autosaves in this game are brutal.
Yeah, it adds a real sense of danger, doesn't it? Especially if you lose track of time and you're out there miles away from safety and that sun starts to set. You can fast travel with fairy stones, but they are very rare indeed. This means the land has to be traversed in the most traditional way, on foot, and whatever dangers you encounter along the way have to be faced head on. Prepare for a lot of replaying and a lot of rerunning across half the map if you forget to save.
Yeah, at one point I travelled all the way out to this fort in the forest, but then it got dark and I was just so terrified to leave the castle and head home in the darkness that I just literally waited there all night until the dawn. They got the difficulty just right here. It's punishing, but then so rewarding, and yet it fills you with so much dread of what lurks beyond. I found myself just panic saving every 5 seconds at one point.
Me too, but that's mostly because I didn't want to redo any of the quests. I think the bulk of the quests of this game are sadly a bit of a letdown. For the first part of the game, you're really only strong enough to do the quests which go from the village to the main city and up the coast in between, and most of those are just kill 10 of this, kill 20 of that, and it just gets a bit grindy and repetitive.
Plus, there's all these escort missions.
I hate escort missions.
I know, and there's so many of them. Sometimes I'd set out and not even realize I had some dude with me I was supposed to take somewhere. So I'd politely tell him that I wasn't interested in helping him right now.
I love that you can pick up just about anything in this game. It's a really fun feature, and I must say, I think I spent the best part of my first hour picking up pots and throwing them at people who are asleep, throwing people at people, and throwing rabbits off cliffs. Don't get in my way, rabbit.
I also thought the stamina system in this game was really well implemented. Running, jumping, combat all use up stamina, and managing this in battle as well as health is just as important. If you completely run out of stamina, recovering it takes a few precious moments, and if you're caught off guard in battle, it can mean a quick death.
You can use potions and herbs to recover your stamina and health in a fight. And you have to be careful when you're sprinting through the forest too, because you can run out of stamina and then get ambushed, and then you're vulnerable. As usual, your trusty pawns will help you if you run out of breath though. Thanks, guys.
There's so much about this world that really sings of a sense of realism and attention to detail. It's a wonderful landscape to explore. There's just a host of little annoyances that turned what could have been a near-perfect game into a good game with quite a few foibles. I just hated 80% of the quests in this game, and this is a big game with nearly 100 hours of content if you do nearly everything.
And you need to do those quests too, otherwise you won't be strong enough to do the main storyline.
Yeah, exactly. But thankfully though, there is lots of opportunities to make your own fun. And as someone who enjoys customizing and managing abilities, I thoroughly enjoyed doing all this for both myself and my main pawn. Just a couple of gals going shopping for swords and vambraces.
I only wish I had more to offer.
Look, I haven't felt such a genuine fear of the dark in a game like this before. I think it's just excellent, and I had a great time with it, so I'm giving it 7.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
Yeah, there are a few things holding it back, and it could have done with a bit of polish in some areas, but this combat was just so interesting to me. I stuck with it just for that, so I'm giving it 8 out of 10.
Good game.
I just need to show everybody that I'm a somebody.
I am going to give you an idea for a game that will change the world.
The four-wheel drive needs a bigger sword, and the princess, bigger tits.
What am I doing here? I used to be an artist. What is it, Troy?
Megan, I'm going to make a game that will change the world. I need you as my concept artist.
I can't just quit my job.
What if the four-wheel drive starts breakdancing?
I'm in.
Norman, I'm making a game that will change the world. I need you as my programmer.
But I've already got a job.
Sorry, everyone. Just got word from the States. We're shutting down. Everyone out.
I'm in.
Yes, now we just need an animator. I can get you free Sky Burgers.
I'm in.
I probably would always say Shigeru Miyamoto because, you know, he's our hero. He should, like, but you know what I'm gonna say? I'm gonna say Link. I'm gonna say the fictional character from the game. This guy, I mean, this little kid can't, like, he's got nothing, yet he has to stand up against all odds, rise up, grow, and get the power to defeat Ganon. And it's because of the Triforce, right? What is it? Courage, strength, and wisdom, I think, or knowledge or wisdom or something. And I think those are awesome keywords there. I strive to be like Link. Imagine if every decision we made, we could start asking ourselves, what would Link do? That should be the new question. What would Link do?
Good game.
It's been a very long time in between clicks, but Diablo 3 is finally here, and it will change your perspective on video game quality.
I am justice itself.
20 years have passed since the world was saved, but now a new threat befouls the lands. Of the 7 evils that plague Sanctuary, only 2 remain. Diablo is dead, you killed him twice and smashed his soul stone, along with 2 other prime evils, Mephisto and Baal from Diablo 2. Only 2 demons remain, Belial and Azmodan.
One by one, our brethren fell into your trap.
But when a star falls out of the sky, their minions burst free and wreak havoc once more on the world.
If you missed the boat on the previous Diablo games, then you will feel like you're coming into the third act, and it will be hard to figure out what's going on.
Lies. Until the very end.
But if you did play those games, then this is a real treat. You'll see familiar faces and enemies.
Does any of this jar your memory?
And even hear familiar sounds from a game that you played and loved over a decade ago. In fact, many of the locations echo old areas too, and much like with StarCraft 2, you're going to be meeting 3D versions of those mobs that you knew and loved. Enemies will burst out of the environment, they'll snare and trap you, swarm you and spew out enemies from their mouth. Character design is beautiful, and there's an appropriate level of gore and blood for a game like this.
I was surprised at how well they told the story, Barjo. I mean, you see a lot of the betrayals and twists coming, but you don't mind so much, and the tragedies are really affecting.
I'm not ashamed to admit, Hex, I may have had a tiny tear at one point.
But we played Diablo for the loot and the cooperative chaos, and you won't be let down. The moment you start fighting in this world, you'll be struck by how solid and reactive everything feels. The camera constantly shakes with the action. Enemies will respond perfectly to your attacks. And the abilities you use alongside your companions are exciting and just plain fun.
Yeah, there's so much going on the screen at once. It's just mayhem, and everything reacts well and the physics are all solid. I especially liked how gross all the Witch Doctor abilities are. Snakes and spiders and giant frogs. Lots of demon vomit.
The bargain stands. Quickly to my sanctum.
With all this chaos, you will need a decent PC to run this on full. What did you think of your class, Hex?
Well, I played a badass demon hunter, and you begin with a crossbow, but you can also wield melee weapons if you like. I chose to stick mainly with bows, though. I found the attacks and abilities generally had much more impact, and I enjoy a heavy-hitting ranged attack. I thought it was cool that the two energies I'd draw from were discipline and hatred, and when I ran out of hatred, I could just, leg it and leave a trail of traps.
I love the Barbarian, which I played in the beta, but this time around I went for a monk. Fast attacks, teleports, and a bit of healing. Pulling mobs in and then kicking them away. It just felt awesome. I especially liked my little water friend. He's my best friend, my water friend. Playing with me and killing all the dudes, he's my best friend. But my favorite ability was this. Eat bell! Eat bell! Eat that bell!
Yeah.
Triple bell! Quadruple bell! Belled them in the face.
I love my giant bell.
I don't. You said eat bell every time you used it. Every time.
Hey Hex, hey Goose. Yeah, it's bell time.
Hey, don't bell me.
You can tell that Blizzard have worked really hard on all of these classes, though, and all the abilities, too, because they all just feel fun and flexible. For example, if you play a wizard, you can just make a glass cannon design and do everything ranged.
If only they could see me now.
But you can switch it up on the fly and get in there and do some melee, too. For the first time in an RPG, I enjoyed every single class, and I also thoroughly enjoyed watching everyone else's class evolve and change as we played side by side.
Along with the constant unlocks and achievements that are flashing their glowy lights at you, there's also gear and active and passive powers that you'll get along the way. There's always something to mix up your attacks, whether it be a new rune to change an ability or an entirely new ability to slot in. A new rune will also change the look of an ability, so combat always feels fresh, and it's just so quick and easy to change them on the fly for a certain situation, but you'll do this anyway just to experiment. They've just built such a clever reward system, which means this is fun to play on your own or with others.
The first thing you should do, though, is turn on enemy health bars, and the second thing you should do is turn on elective mode, and this will let you put your abilities wherever you like on the taskbar. They've gone for a simplified talent tree system here. It seems to be a direction that a lot of modern RPGs are going, and I think some people won't like it, but in this case, I'm not one of them.
Yeah, I mean, at first the idea of no longer putting points into a tree sounds like an abomination, but it can work quite well. We actually spoke with lead designer on the game, Jay Wilson, about this.
Well, what's interesting about our skill system is I think when people look at it, it looks like there's a very small number of choices. We look back at systems that like attribute point spending and skill point spending, and we said these are really math problems. And the people who love math problems love them. But most people just kind of go up to, you know, the forums and they find the answer to the math problem and they plug it in. And also, you know, the other problem with the math problem is there's a right answer. And with customization, we wanted there to be not just one right answer. We wanted a lot of diversity, and we wanted it to be something that anyone could feel like they can customize without having to go and look up a forum to know what the perfect combination of where they put their points is and how to work out the math. I think if people look back at the original Diablo II, they'll remember that while there were 30 some odd abilities and 20 points you could spend on any of them, the number of builds and abilities that were actually really viable were very small. There's a lot of abilities that were redundant with one another. One of the things we've tried to do is have every ability stand on its own and have the combinations of those abilities be highly diverse and really different from one another and very viable. So we think in the long run, the customization options that we've put in the game have a lot more depth.
I don't think the system will work for all RPGs, but it does work here, and I think it's because you just have so much to customize and play around with.
Yeah, and there's nothing worse than ruining a build with a wasted point.
Yeah.
It gives you more time to focus on inventory management and gear, and there is a lot of gear.
The gods pay.
Yeah! So much gold. So much gold.
Money is important to buy what you can't make yourself, but the focus here really is on crafting your own and using the auction house too. Everything you craft gets randomly assigned statistics, so it adds this gambling aspect of both frustration and excitement. So you might make a helm that's good for someone else, you might get lucky and make something that you can use yourself, and if you want someone else to have your pants, you can just chuck them on the ground.
We totally should have swapped pants ages ago.
And the best part is, no one can ninja your loot. When something drops, only you can see it, unless you take it out of your inventory and chuck it away. I think this mechanic will be seen in future RPGs too, because it works so well. But the best gear in the game will come from very rare drops indeed, and it's unlikely you'll find something that you can use yourself. And this is where the auction house will come into play, but soon Blizzard will be launching their very own real-world money auction and trade house.
I have to say, it sounds pretty horrible to me. I mean, real-world money and in-game loot just shouldn't be a thing. I feel like we're getting into Farmville territory.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I also think that it's going to happen anyway, and gold farmers can ruin an economy, so keeping it within the game could be a good thing.
Well, at least you don't actually need it, because there is plenty of gold to be earned by simply just wandering around and finding random events. And there is actually a lot of randomly generated content in this game, so repeat playthroughs should be quite different.
Yeah, I found it a bit disorientating going back and playing other areas to find the major enemy had moved to a different point and I had to go a different way. Oh, keeps it fresh though. Questing hits that perfect balance of self-exploration and knowing where to go. I was a bit worried things might be a bit too linear, but it doesn't feel like that at all. There's also not many places where you and your party all have to meet up just to progress. The quest tracking is very forgiving. And the best part is, if you drop into someone else's game who's a bit ahead of you and play with them, it'll unlock all the quests that you've missed, so you can go back and do them in your own time.
Amazing. I mean, this freedom is so important because sometimes you just can't find 4 people to play through at the same time from start to finish with a game like this.
One of the big things about Diablo 3 is you need to be connected to play it, even if you're going to play single player, and with the launch issues that happened, a lot of people got very frustrated at that.
Chancellor, my grandfather.
It does highlight the pains and frustrations associated with that connect-only play, but I do understand why they do it for a handful of reasons. And for example, in Diablo 2, there was all that duping where people would go offline and copy their gear and then come online and sell it all.
Yeah, I understand people were upset, but honestly, I think the launch issues have been blown way out of proportion. I mean, it's completely normal for a game like this to have some launch issues in the first week.
Yeah, I actually think they did a really good job at sorting it out. If you look at something like any of the Call of Duty games online or Battlefield 3, or even Battlefield Bad Company 2, they took a month to sort that one out. Try getting into a DayZ server, and these problems with Diablo 3 will feel like a walk in the park. If a walk in the park was a problem, a small problem, like a niggle. It's not that bad, is what we're saying.
One might think you a sensible person if you keep talking like that.
Once you are connected and ready to go, the drop-in, drop-out system is so smooth. Connecting to a friend's game is done with 1-2 clicks and you're in. And there's a teleportation system as well that speeds everything up in-game.
It's seamless, isn't it? And the way that the menus are designed here and that teleport system just speak to the mantra of this game, you know? It just keeps you moving forward and doesn't waste your time. And the loading is about 3 seconds.
It's such a different vibe playing in single player though, isn't it, Barjo?
And Dariel was the only female evil. She aided the lesser evils for many years.
It's a good way to get to grips with your abilities, and some of them are better for soloing too. On your own, atmosphere and lore take over as you and your hired NPC companion chat about the issues at hand.
Belial has been watching you since you arrived. There are traces of his magic everywhere.
You start to notice more of the world and its high level of detail in all areas. Enemy animations are fluid and exciting and just gory. Every now and again, an enemy's head might fly off or they'll get de-skinned.
Or just explode in a bloody mess.
Yeah, and it's such a wonderfully fleshed out world too, isn't it? Little bugs and creatures are everywhere, and along with the simple effects and painted backgrounds, you feel like you're truly in another world, which is quite an achievement for a game with this kind of fixed view. It's consistently beautiful, and you pretty much play a game like this with your mouth open in awe.
I love squishing the bugs.
Yeah, me
squish,
too.
Squish, squish, squish. It's just a shame that your first playthrough is so easy. There's barely any strategy to it, and I must have died maybe twice in my first 15 or 20 hours.
Yeah, I found it pretty forgiving as well, and mainly because my main memory of Diablo 2 was that if you died, you had to run all the way back to your corpse if you wanted to get your gear, but here you just res at the last checkpoint with all your gear, just a bit of a hit to your durability, but you can teleport back home and repair that in a heartbeat anyway.
I didn't mind that too much. After a while, I never want to walk back to a corpse again. But there were instances where, for example, I was fighting this big enemy and I got him down to one tiny little bit, so it would have been just 1 or 2 hits and he would have been gone, but he got me. So when I went back to take him out, I thought, okay, I'll mix up my abilities, I'll try a different strategy, maybe I can take him down. He didn't even regen health, so I just went up and went,
It was getting a little boring in there.
Once you get into Act 3, things do get a bit more challenging with positional AoEs, but it's still pretty easy.
Yeah, but you know, I guess it's just what you do with Diablo 2. You clock it in the first playthrough to learn it, and then you play it again on Nightmare and Hardcore, and that's where the strategy really counts.
You're lucky you weren't eaten alive.
Oh, nonsense. I'm tough and bony. Demons have better taste than that.
I know, I just think a lot of people are going to miss out on that beautiful strategy because they'll play it through once and then stop. Sad. I am impressed with the difficulty, manipulation and scaling in multiplayer though. When other people join your game, you don't feel overpowered, the enemies scale up accordingly.
Oh, so bloody.
Yeah, there is also PvP coming in the form of multiplayer arenas, but Blizzard are holding back on that for now because it's not quite ready yet. But we should wrap this up, Barjo.
Yes, well, there are a few games released each year with this level of polish and craftsmanship. It's a mighty fine click 'em up with plenty of fan service, and it is a more accessible game, but not at the cost of gameplay and depth. So I'm giving it 9.5 out of 10 rubber chickens.
You know, there's replay value in this even before you get to the end of your first playthrough, because you'll go back and replay sections just to help your friends level up, and I think there's something really great about that. But this is a joyous time destroyer with some beautiful visuals and great voice acting, and I think that even if you don't like this genre, you'll like this game. It's 9.5 out of 10 from me as well.
And just a reminder, if you want to see that full interview with Jay Wilson, it'll be on our website.
Where in Bullcather's name did I go wrong in my life?
Good game! So, did you guess the game for this week?
It was Adventure, the first ever action-adventure game released in 1979 for the Atari 2600. It's also credited with having the first ever gaming Easter egg when its creator secretly embedded his own name into the game. And at the time, Atari didn't actually credit its game developers.
Did you know that that particular Easter egg took up 5% of the memory on that cartridge? Could you imagine a developer doing that now?
Yorgle.
Yorgle?
It's the name of the yellow dragon in Adventure.
Ah, you're quite an aficionado on dragons, aren't you?
I am, yes.
Well, next week, Max Payne 3. It's been 9 years since the last game, which is quite the wait.
Well, we waited over 10 years for Diablo 3.
That's true. It's tough being a gamer.
It is.
Speaking of being tough on gamers, we also have a look at DayZ, which is a zombie online survival mod for Arma 2. And it's scary and tough and it hurts to play it.
Oh
And the team-based futuristic action of Starhawk. Thanks for tweeting, tweeters, and for posting on our Facebook page and the forums. We cannot wait to read your Diablo 3 reviews in the Good Game app. Till next time, may all your games be good ones. Hex out.
Barjo out.
Are you playing? No, wait!
Of sparkling happiness and rainbows await.